Hello everyone and welcome to the Enduro+World+Series podcast. And as you can see behind us this week, we've travelled to a rather brilliant place. Rory and I are in the comfort of Tempest Brew Co, just up the road from Innerleithen. And I think this is the first podcast we're going to do where we can actually, admittedly an alcohol-free beer, but we can have a beer.
Yeah, we've done well to get to 25 episodes without resorting to alcohol.
It's remarkable, really, isn't it?
Well, alcohol-free Sir Pale Ale. So yeah,
it's nice. Yeah, go for
sample. It's quite nice and warm outside, so I'm sure this will be. Oh, you shake that?
I didn't shake it. No, believe me, if I'd shaken that, I would have shaken it properly. No, we are here on important business, I should say. The good people at Tempest Brew Co are actually coming behind us to help support the Victoria EWS and EWS-E Tweed Valley race, and that has extended to crafting us a signature Enduro+World+Series beer. So Rory, if you were going to put together an Enduro+World+Series beer, Sláinte, what would it taste like?
That's a good question. That's very nice. Truthfully, I'm not the biggest beer drinker in the Enduro+World+Series team, so I'd probably leave it to somebody a little more seasoned, like yourself or Chris Ball. I'm sure you'd give the full-time tasters here a run for their money, but I'm intrigued. Local pub, the Treacle Arms in Innerleithen, has a few Tempest beers on tap, so I've actually been able to sample a few of them already. And I was actually at one of the Tempest Brewery tap rooms on Saturday night with a few friends, so they can open part of the brewery and have a few picnic benches, and you come and have a few beers and change it up every week to what's good and what's kind of on offer. So it's a really cool spot.
Quiet night down the library about that one. I think you've got to go slightly lower alcohol level to allow you to really drink a lot off it if it's going to be an EWS signature beer. Aid with rehydration, of course, can be isotonic, of course, who knows, maybe some salt in there basically, and it's not much I can do to help the guys with this. It's not really an individual ingredient, is it? But I think you need to nail that almost ice cold first gulp that feels like it's washing hour upon hour of trail dust down your throat and just makes you feel human again after a big day out on the bike on the stages, or God forbid trying to interview people.
You've really thought about this, haven't you?
I have, yeah. It's that first beer on the beach in Finale, basically. Yeah. You know, that one that like they could give it to you in a bucket and it would just still be one of your best beers of the year.
Yeah. I get that way with food, as in like I get so hungry or get the knock or something and I could just eat like a mouldy loaf of bread and it'd be the best thing I've ever tasted. But I've never felt that way about beer, but never know. I'm sure you've worked for the EWS for a few more years than me, so it might come to eventually.
You might get mouldy bread. I just realised as well, I wrote a good intro for you this week, and I didn't read it out. Do you want to hear it?
Go on, yeah. I mean, I'm always like these.
Right. I need to introduce my co-host, of course, Rory Cunningham, sports coordinator of the Enduro+World+Series. Joining me, like the seagull that once smashed into the back of my head and then stole my chicken salad baguette in the middle of Dumfries city centre, Rory Cunningham.
Pretty good. Must have been a brave seagull to go anywhere near your head.
It was horrible, man. And there was a lot of people confused as to why it was raining salad as well. Listen, as much as we'd love to stay and talk about beer and baguette thieving seagulls, we've got to talk about what's on our very immediate horizon, which is as early as this Friday. You're going to be hitting the road, aren't you?
Yeah, I thought this podcast was going to be an hour break from the impending next block of racing, but yeah, we're off on Friday in the Vobber. I believe you're off.
I'm off on Saturday, on the plane.
And we're all the way to the next block of racing, so round 5 and 6 in Loudenvielle.
It's come around quick, hasn't it?
It has come around quick, and truthfully, a lot to do before then, even though it is about 3 days away now, and when this podcast comes out, probably less than 24 hours. But I'm actually quite excited. I've been getting some information back and forth from Ludovic, the local organizer there, about the trails, and it's going to be quite a week, and the location looks stunning. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be absolutely incredible, isn't it? The next block of racing looks incredibly substantial. We've got 2 races, 2 rounds of the Enduro+World+Series. In Loudenvielle. The next 2 rounds of the Enduro+World+Series in Loudenvielle at the Michelin EWS Loudenvielle.
We haven't been to France, unbelievably, for a while, actually, not since Olarg 2019, in fact, which seems crazy given just how dominant the French racers have been since then. And such is the way with the times that we live in the age of COVID-19, I guess. But like, there's nothing bigger than a bike race in France, is there? Like, just from the talent and the depth of talent. I mean, the amateur level in France, so high. Loudenvielle is located in the French Pyrenees in the Luron Valley. It looks like being an absolutely stunning part of the world, really. I've heard that these are some big days that they have planned there for rounds 5 and 6 of the championship.
Yeah, certainly the course maps that I've been sent are, they're big. I mean, we're talking 2 races in a week. We've got another double header. We're looking at 3,500 metres descending per race. So, that's a total of probably 7,000 metres plus of descending over the 2 races. You factor in practice, and you're talking probably closer to 10,000 metres. So you're probably talking 10,000 metre plus of descending in between Wednesday and Sunday, which is massive. So that's Everest plus Ben Nevis on the top of it.
Put it like that, that's massive, isn't it?
Yeah, when you think about that, and not to mention the stages are out there. They'll be tough. It's I've been advised to bring some stronger sun cream. I think it can be pretty hot in the Pyrenees that time of year. But,
you're joking.
Unfortunately for us, we've both got a little bit of the ginger gene, so we're going to be
print a newspaper on me.
I'm looking forward to it. And on the positive, there's a big lake at the bottom, so when we overheat, not if, we can jump in that.
You could just see all the steam coming off as the two of us go in. Remember swimming in the sea in finale last year, the two of us said that we could actually it
was too warm.
You could actually feel your head, like your hard drive cooling down from just being that heavily worked. But I'm really, really excited about it. I love going to France, and it's just one of those countries that everyone there takes so much pride in the local area, the local culture, the local food. I mean, as someone from the island of Ireland that has lived nearly half of my life outside of Ireland, I'm all too aware of how to be careful with national stereotypes. But when it comes to enduro racing, enduro race courses in France, you immediately think technical, don't you? That's what springs to mind. Yeah,
there is something, like you mentioned before, there is something special about a bike race in France. It's almost, bike race or mountain bike racing in France is almost like a religion. There's so many strong French riders from, again, like you mentioned, amateur to professional level, but there's something about a race in France that just goes up a level. It's the French presence is massive at every race we go to, just with the sheer volume of riders. But when you actually have the event in France, all the riders seem to step it up a level. The crowds come out. The courses, like you say, are always technical. They're always big, and I'm sure this one's going to be no different.
I honestly, one of the things you get asked by people you ride with and stuff, or in the pub or whatever, is where's the most technically challenging place you've been with the Enduro+World+Series, and I always come back to Olarg. Olarg was just like big, rocky savagery. I think that you need to ride it to understand just how tech that place really was.
Yeah, there was a few stages in Olarg that were, up there, if not the most technical stages I've ever raced. Not to mention, the volume of the race, the size of the stages, the size of the days. And then the weather came in just to make it that little bit more challenging. But the French know how to put on a bike race. It's going to be exciting to see the second half of the season kick off at what looks to be such an amazing venue. So I'm excited.
It's amazing, isn't it? I think there are two main components as to why France is so dominant when it comes to international mountain bike racing. The first is just how brilliantly in love with the sport. Like all of its derivatives, mountain biking, road cycling, cyclocross, it extends to the organisation, and then right down to club level. I mean, we see, for example, Cedric and Cécile Ravenel bringing young riders in from their local club up to EWS level. There's real structure and a promotion of racing in France at all levels. Secondly, the technical level of riding that is deemed as average there is just through the roof, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the French structure and their kind of grassroots and pathway system just seems to be, it's visible when you look at the depth of talent and, not just enduro, but downhill, cross country, pretty much every form of cycling, the depth of talent that comes out of France is huge. They do a really good job of creating racing for grassroots level and nurturing kids from a very, very young age right through to your current professionals. It's like I said, the sport of France it's like a religion. I mean, it's very different to anywhere else, and not to mention the fans that are going to show up. It's you always get some characters, and
you always get a guy
interesting crowd.
You always get a guy dressed like a chicken, don't you? That's like and track pump hard air horn. If I don't see one of those, I'm not in France.
Chainsaws and all sorts.
I'm going to put you on the spot now and say, out of the current crop of French pros currently dominating pro women and pro men, in terms of technical ability, which is what we've just been talking about, who's top of the tree for you in each category?
In the men's, the one that jumps out for me is Adrian Daly. I think his technical ability on a bike is right up there with Sam+Hill. I think he's learned a lot from, it's no secret how closely he's been working with Nico for a long time, and you watch him ride and he makes it look very easy, but if you understand what he's doing and watch what he's doing, it's quite mind blowing. In the women's, that's a really tough one, to be honest. I think the Morgan, Melanie, and Isabeau, they're all very, very technically gifted, but they all do it slightly differently, if you know what I mean. I think Isabeau, she's like the proven champion. She's kind of all round. Morgan, come from downhill. I always felt her kind of, when it got really deep and technical, that was where she excelled. So she's really good there. And then Melanie Pusen just seems to be, she's in the last kind of year to 18 months, just seems to have come out swinging and is right up there as well. So it's difficult to choose between those three, isn't it?
And to be honest with you, the French national champs that happened at the weekend didn't really help you much in your quest to find that one out, because Isabeau Courdurier taking the win, taking that French national champs jersey, but close behind her, Melanie Pujan and Morgan Charr.
And I guess they've all had one of the best role models in the sport, and Caroux. I mean, when we talk about technically gifted female mountain bikers, I don't think there's one. I'd say if you look at mountain biking in general, gravity mountain biking, I don't think we've seen anything quite like her ever. I think she's kind of a complete one-off, as in downhill, enduro, BMX, Olympics. I mean, I remember watching videos of her 20 years ago when I was just getting into the sport and being like, doing X-ups on a Cannondale lefty.
Still incredible to watch now. You watch those old videos back.
Yeah, she's incredible, absolutely incredible. I mean, she's her kind of, the majority of her racing days are now behind her. But I mean, as far as talented French riders, we could do the rest of the podcast just listing them. But I mean, she's pretty special, isn't she?
Yeah, I mean, the big news story from that French champs, obviously Isabeau taking the win, the pro women's, but Alex Rudeau taking the men's title ahead of Big Kev Mikel. Just great to see for Alex. It feels like he's really coming of age this season. Yeah,
part of the Common Sal team, who, I mean, they're not shy at bringing youngsters onto the world stage.
No, they're good at winning. Put it another way, they're good at winning stuff.
Testament to their programme. But secretly, he's been flying under the radar for the beginning of this year. Like I remember seeing him on track, and truthfully, I think if we'd spoken about Alex Rudeau a year ago, we'd both be saying who. He's really came out swinging, looked great at the first few rounds. Believe maybe had a couple of top 10s, or was certainly floating around there. French champion. When you talk about the depth of talent, he's beaten some big names, and it's only going to give him confidence going into the next block.
It shows you how
making me a bit gassy. So, pardon me, viewers, listeners.
Beer was a bad choice. It shows you how fickle racing is, doesn't it? I mean, Alex Rudeau at the last round of the EWS in La Tuile, he absolutely mullered himself and his bike in an old-fashioned style, in a proper the sort of crash that you don't thankfully see that often anymore. He detonated his front wheel in a hole. Basically, he was on the outside of a rut and the wheel went in, wheel blew up. He was sent shooting out the front of the bike like a javelin. Massive crash. He got to the bottom, you could almost see the canaries flying around his head, absolutely wrecked. And he took 10 minutes, had a concussion check, was okay. Cecile Ravenel's team manager came over and let us know that they're going to put new wheels on the bike, take a 5-minute penalty for that, and put him back in the race. He got back to the pits, did just that, finished the race, and now a couple of weeks later, champion of France. It just shows you, the guts and the determination, I think, that you really need to do well in this sport.
Yeah, and it shows you also how quickly it can go wrong, and how, obviously great for Alex, and I'm sure he's going to be, fired up for the rest of the season. But it shows you how hard riders are having to push to crack into that top 10, and also kind of highlights how amazing it is that the likes of Richie and Jack are able to do that consistently, stage after stage, and touch wood, they've not had one of these problems yet. So great ride by Alex, and look forward to congratulating him in a week's time.
Both those riders, of course, on French teams too. The new national champs, Isabeau on Lapierre Zip Collective, Alex, as we said, on Common Sal Enduro team. I am predicting a big fight come Michelin EWS Loudenvielle. I cannot wait. Don't forget, all the action will be on our home on the Global Mountain Bike Network, GMBN. So after rounds 5 and 6 in France, we hop on the van and head to the second of 2 brand new venues then in a row for the specialised EWS and EWS-E Crans-Montana. Before we get into what a big week that will be, getting the e-bikes back out on course again, let's talk about Crans-Montana as a venue. Firstly, and perhaps most obviously, it's the Valais region of Switzerland, which is kind of akin to saying it's Italy's most beautiful supercar, isn't it? Like, you're talking about the most beautiful place of the most beautiful place. Absolutely stunning part of the world. You taking your clubs with you? They seem to be quite big on golf there.
Yeah, it's got the home of the Swiss Masters. Crans-Montana has the golf course that hosts the Swiss Masters. But I mean, if they see me swinging it in the practice range, they're going to let me nowhere near it. So apparently there's 3 courses. So one of them's, I think, pretty high end, which I'm pretty sure we'll get nowhere near it. But there's a couple more, so we'll maybe see if we can get on that. And
nice.
If we've got time, if we're not wrecked from the big e-bike days, because I think they've got something pretty crazy.
We started playing a lot of crazy golf on production last time in La Tuile, and the competition level was fairly high. I'm not saying the home of the Swiss Masters will have a crazy golf course, but
it better.
Yeah. Golf aside, then, Crans-Montana, check out their official Instagram page. It is just basically banger after banger of spectacular mountain scenery. I have this weird thing that happens to me though in Switzerland where I can't get any sense of scale attached to anything anymore. Like, every backdrop is so stunning that you kind of just think you're walking through a green scheme. It's just kind of like it's like a film backdrop for everything. Let's talk bike racing. What sort of course are we expecting there? Because Zermatt, our previous Swiss round, it was a weirdly specific style of riding, wasn't it? It was quite fast in a reasonably straight line over lots of big sharp rocks that just for all the world looked like they wanted to eat your wheel, all blown out, and then into ridiculously tight turns where basically judging your entry and exit speed critical. Are we expecting more of that in Crans-Montana, or are we expecting a bit of a different flavour of things? It's
going to be different. Crans-Montana, I'd say more alpine than Zermatt. Zermatt had like you said, quite a hard rocky surface and quite unforgiving. A lot of the stages were originally walking paths, and you could see design wise they weren't built with kind of flowing corners.
1300 millimetre.
Yeah, there was a lot of
enduro bikes.
There was a lot of like 140 degree hairpins. So it's not going to be like that. Crans-Montana does have a bike park, and they've had a few downhill races in the past. So I think the IXS Cup had a race there in the last kind of 10 years. So, but it's going to be a mix. Some of the stages are going to be in the bike park. Some of them are going to venture out of the bike park. The e-bike's going to get up into the big mountains, be pretty remote in spots, which will be exciting. But I think it's going to be a really good mix. Stunning location. We've been working with the Z Boys on the course, so
shout out to the Z Boys. I think it's probably haven't been to Zermatt a couple of times in the last few years, but I I get a whiff of speed off the place. I always think Switzerland is it's the home of going fast, isn't it? And I think that's it's ingrained in that kind of mountain winter sport culture that they have, that speed is king, and when they build stuff, you better be ready to go fast. The big bikes return in Switzerland for the specialised EWS-E Crans-Montana. EWS-E beginning its second season, still very much in its infancy, of course. But what is really cool that we are having free rounds this season at venues which you really would acknowledge as being e-bike super fans, aren't they? Like talking about Crans-Montana, Finale, Ligure and the Tweed Valley, 3 areas that e-bikes are really flourishing in at the minute, and there's a lot of progressive conversation about e-bike trail design, integrating them into the community. If you want to know more about EWS-E and how the format works, we did cover a lot of it on the last episode, so maybe head back and check that one out. Really, who are we expecting to be up there then on the e-bikes this season?
It's a tough one, isn't it? I think there's going to be a few new faces that we haven't seen last year. It'd be good to see Josh Carlson back. Obviously transitioning from EWS, Alex Foyol, World Cup downhill winner. He's riding for Husqvarna, I believe. That's
right, yeah.
So that'll be good. Obviously we've got the main protagonists last year, Nico Vulios and Yannick Pontal. And then the women's, obviously last year we had Tracy Mosley, and we did see Melanie Pugin win the first one. But it will also be interesting, the format this year allowing riders to race both. How many racers will, are there going to be riders who've maybe missed around through injury? So someone like Charlie Murray who wasn't able to race in La Tuile. He's been doing a bit of e-bike racing in his spare time. Will we see him line up in Crans-Montana? Any other riders?
Interesting to see Charlie on an e-bike, wouldn't it?
We might see
good friend of the podcast.
Might see a high-profile local downhill racer in the Tweed Valley if he can get home from.
We might see an extremely high-profile, as yet to be announced person on an as yet to be announced brand that I can't say too much more about, but I think that's starting to
could be anybody,
yeah. I think it's starting to it's gathering some good pace, and I'm looking forward to seeing Yannick Pontal in that new Peugeot setup. The bike looks good.
Pagey told me he's going to race the last round.
Nigel Page is going to race the last round.
Yeah. And now he's a Scottish resident.
Yeah, has he got his passport? He's got his passport yet?
His blue one, his tartan passport. Not yet, I don't think. He's still got to pass the Innerleithen incomer test.
What's that? You just
when you move to Innerleithen and you're not from Innerleithen, you kind of get vetted for a year.
I can't believe that.
Either come after you with pitchforks, or you kind of leave you alone.
I can't believe that process only takes a year. I'd say you're viewed with great scepticism.
Maybe a decade.
Yeah. Can I start a rumour then that you're going to race it? I mean, you've designed the course. You'd be right up there in terms of local knowledge, wouldn't you? Jack this stuff on the head and swing a leg back over a race bike.
Could do. The course is going to be good. I was out putting final touches on it the other day, and it was interesting. I went out with one of our local team who's not really ridden an e-bike in that way before. I think there's a misconception that riding up a fire road and down all the trails you would normally go down, or just riding the same loop you'd ride a normal bike on an e-bike is
easy. E-bike's easy.
As soon as you go, right, we're going up that, they kind of go, no, we're not. And actually, funnily enough, I really enjoyed it, and it was good to see. Good to see them kind of. You could see the cogs turning and thinking this is something different. So
it is a different experience. I think you need to try it. Everyone needs to try it. Specialised EWS and EWS-E Crans-Montana. Cannot wait to get back to Switzerland. I do have this thing in my head though, where I kind of keep on thinking that Crans-Montana is a rapper that has a new album out, but can't wait to see all the Swissies again, including local organisers, the Z-Boys, Nick and the gang, Addy. Go and check out their latest video on the EWS website if you want to get hyped on that one. The trails look absolutely stunning. Max Chapuis and co going very, very fast over there. Right, I'm making an executive decision here, and we've been sat in a brewery, Tempest Brewery Co, for a while now. Fruit is getting dry, which seems ridiculous. Let's save the Vittoria EWS-E and EWS Tweed Valley. The signature beer is going to be 4. Maybe come back here, maybe do a bit more closer to the race on that, and for its own podcast. And I'm not just trying to gouge free beer here, but let's talk about the final round in this current coming up back-to-back-to-back triple double. the Bluegrass EWS-E and EWS finale presented by Vittoria. Finale Ligure spliced with a healthy dose of Pietra Ligure, I think is the best way to describe it. I'm predicting that we're going to see one off, if not the definitive finale outdoor region race course of all time. What are you expecting?
I've seen the map, so I know what I'm expecting.
Yeah. Big?
It's going to be big. It's going to be big. Both races, I think, are going to be big. The EWS race is set to be a good one. It's going to be a big day, shall we say. We'll leave it at that. And yeah, the EWS-E is going to take in more than just the finale Ligure area. It's going to get pretty adventurous. Going to see some kind of over the hill liaisons, which is going to be really cool. And finale know how to put on a bike race, don't they? They've been
They're the masters at putting you through the mincer, but you emerge out of the mincer smiling somehow still. Do you know what I mean? They make hard courses, but courses that are very, very enjoyable as well.
Yeah, there's something about ending at the beach as well. No matter how traumatic your day's been, you can kind of roll up to the beachfront, have a beer, have a pizza, gelato, and sit in the sun and go, it'll be all right.
Yeah,
it's
great. It's a great leveler
nice
as well, isn't it? Finale, I always think it's not. It's so varied, it's so tough that it sort of flattens out that who does this suit? Do you know what I mean? It's not one set of circumstances, it's a bit of everything, and it's always big, which means that you've got to be ready for it.
Yeah, you've kind of got to be the all-round rider to excel there. It's technical, it's physical, it's usually hot, so that adds into it. The days are big, stages vary a lot. Like there doesn't seem to be, when you've got the rockier, tighter, more technical stages down closer to the actual town and closer to the coast, and then once you get back into the mountains, you start becoming faster. The dirt changes. There's more flow to them. It's you've really got to be an all-round rider, and it's one of these venues I always felt that you had to maybe go to maybe one or two times before you really got to grips with it. And then Charlie Murray went there last year and came like fifth, and
proved that wrong.
I was wrong, but but yeah, it's as iconic a venue as we have, and there's no such thing as a bad bike racing finale. So I'm sure
there's really not. I remember Damien Ottod winning there as well in 2018, I want to say, and that was just an incredible ride and great to see him get that win there. Last time out we saw Richie Rude, Morgan Shard taking wins in Finale Ligure. Estelle Charles got on her debut podium. Pietra itself did an exceptional job last season too. I mean, against all odds, the world was really upside down on its head at that time. So many people were cautious, so many people were questioning whether racing should be happening at all, despite the fact that we were adhering to as much advice as we could. And the organisers of Pietra just stood up and said, we'll hold one. We want racing to happen, we want to be a part of this. And we were treated to, honestly, some of the best trails I think I've ever ridden. It's just always good on the coast, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's brilliant. I'm not going to ask you to predict who's going to win what. What I am going to ask you, though, is who is going to be the big disruptor across these next 3 races coming up?
I think in the men's, the name that would stand out is Adrian Daly.
I was thinking Adrian because you've got a combination of round in France and Loudenvielle, and then you've got Finale where he's done well in the past.
He won Pietra last year, didn't he?
Won Pietra last year. It's very similar, so that's 2 rounds where he could amass points, and then if he does something in Grand Montana obviously as well.
Not just because we've spoken about them, but I kind of see the main disruptor as being a French rider. I think the next 2 races, or the double in Loudenvielle being, they're going to be fired up for it. I think French championships were there last year, so all the French riders have got a good idea of what the terrain's going to be like. So yeah, someone like Adrian Day, Dimitri Tordo,
Tordo's a great shout.
Alex Rudeau. You can throw Big Kevin there as well. I certainly think, I think if you look at the kind of the pack of French riders who might feel, it's difficult. You might think Jack and Richie at this point in the season, are they gonna maybe begin to try and play it safe? I mean, we're only kind of 4 rounds in, but it's so close that almost like a bad round or a throwaway round isn't possible. So they might take their foot off the gas a little bit and might see the opportunity and the door open for some other guys. In the women's field,
I'm going to say Hattie Harnden. It feels strange to say that someone who's already in the top 3 of the overall as a disruptor, but I kind of feel pre-season at the start of the year we were talking about those 3 big French names, and I think Hattie, she's not shown weakness yet. She's not shown a set of circumstances that she can't cope with, either mentally, physically, in terms of technical ability. And I just think this block of racing is so tightly compacted, it'll really play to somebody with her fitness and strength. So I think Hattie's in for the championship this year.
It's a good shout, and not to for this to sound just kind of negative at all, but she's kind of under the radar in a sense, as I don't think anybody expected her to win and be in the title fight this year, still being under 21. Well,
we predicted podiums maybe, didn't we? It shows what we know.
Yeah.
Virtually nothing. But.
Yeah. I know quite a lot. Fantasy league leader. I'd say she's flying under the radar a little bit, even though she's won one, which sounds ridiculous. Other racers, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how ALN comes back.
Both ALN and Noga actually sort of reasonably quiet for the last year or so, but they both showed in the first rounds of the season that the pace is still there, the hunger is still there. ALN, absolute heartbreak in the Tweedle. What state's that ankle in? We'll find out, I guess. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see how she comes back. I think Hattie's going to be strong regardless. But yeah, you never know. I mean, that's the thing about enduro racing, right? Is it can occasionally just throw you a curveball, and I think going to a race, it's the unpredictability and not knowing who's going to win that makes it exciting. If we were going to this race saying, it's going to be, it's going to be Richie and it's going to be Isabel 100%, you'd kind of be like, yeah. But if you go to the race saying, there's Richie and Jack and there's everybody else and there's these Frenchies and they're going to be hungry for it, and the women's race is so open. And I think as we head into this block of racing, it's really important to celebrate the fact that we haven't got somebody who's just miles in front out there. We've got really, really close racing in the pro women's race. 4 racers basically shaping up for the title. Men's race, a really, really strong top 5 as well. Yeah, that's a good shout as well. I was getting a little bit I was getting French flags in my eyes a little bit there, but I mean, let's not forget Zach Johansson, good friend of the podcast. You're welcome, Zach. Podium in La Tuile. He's done a few races outside of that in the month off. He's done a few kind of regional, national races, and I think he's won every single one. In La Tuile, he was closer to Richie in second than Richie was to Jack. So a good race, and he could be right up there as well. I can imagine Jesse Melamed coming back into this as well. I think he'll have gone away, worked on the speed. He's he's been up close and personal now with Jack and Richie on the stages, and I think Jesse's someone who, he's just got that dogged determination. He's just got that attitude that I think will serve him well and get him right back up to the start of stuff. Listen, I think it's important that we thank Tempest Brew Co again. Purveyors of absolutely superb beer right here at home in the Tweed Valley, and we're hopefully going to be seeing a lot more of them come the end of September, aren't we? If you are interested in any of their handmade amazing beers, you can head to their website for all the info on how you can get a hold of some, tempestbrewery.co.uk. Rory, thank you to Tempest, thank you for joining us. I'm now going to pack all this down, give you my bike, and you can put it in the van, and then I'll see you in France. Mon ami. Sounds brilliant. Right, see you in a bit. Cheers, right. Thanks, Rory.